Hello everyone, my name is Dietrich Ludwig. I wanted to do a quick video about kind of where we stand, where our energy comes from, and how we are using it. When talking about that, this is probably the most fundamental chart that we can look at with relation to energy and the United States. The bar on the left represents all the energy that is being used, all of it. That means transportation, that means electricity, that means home heating and cooling. That even means the device that you're watching this video on right now. All of the energy that we're using in the United States is accounted for in this bar. The bar on the right is how we are using it. So 27% of our energy is being used for transportation. About 39% of our energy is being used in the electricity grid. Petroleum represents about 35% of our total energy. Natural gas about 28%, coal 18%, renewables are at 10%, and nuclear power is around 8% of our electricity. But probably the most important thing to look at when looking at this graph is right down here, the electrical sector. This is so incredibly important because in the future, this is probably going to expand out to include a lot more things. It's probably going to expand out to include things like transportation, much more of residential and commercial, and even a lot of industrial. So the electricity grid is increasingly going to become very important to look at with relation to what we are doing, what sources of energy are powering it. So that brings us to our second really important chart to look at, and that is the makeup of the energy sources in our electric sector. This is the chart that this is where our electricity comes from. As you can see, 1/3 of it is already carbon-free. That means the hydroelectricity, renewables, and nuclear energy put together represents 1/3 of our electricity, and all of that is already carbon-free. So the grand goal behind the next 50 to 100 years is to decarbonize the electricity sector. And the good news is we're already 1/3 of the way there, but the big bad boy in the room is coal, representing 39% of our electricity. And that's the one that is really important that we replace with renewable energy. Natural gas represents 28%, but natural gas is much less carbon intensive than coal and will be slightly important for grid reliability and things like that. So that's kind of where we stand. That's kind of where our energy comes from and where our energy comes from with regards to the electricity grid. And the electricity grid is the really important one because it's going to increasingly support kind of the rest of the activities that we do in our lives, like driving and home heating and cooling and stuff like that. A lot of that is going to be transferred onto the electricity grid, where then hopefully we can decarbonize the electricity grid, and all of these activities will be able to happen in a very low carbon way. Driving, home heating and cooling, and that kind of thing. All of that, as long as we decarbonize the electricity grid and shift a lot of the loads onto the electricity grid, we will be in pretty good shape. And that's kind of the grand vision and grand goal behind the next 50 to 100 years, is to do that.